Welcome in. Hello, welcome in. It's the PHNX Cardinals Podcast, your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. Like and subscribe. Leave us a 5-star wherever you get your programming. I'm Johnny Venerable. He is Bo Brock, live at the PHNX headquarters in downtown Phoenix. We are roughly, what is it, Bo, about a month away from the start of Jonathan Gannon's inaugural training camp with the Redbirds. And I thought, you know what? This roster, it's already been depleted. It's been depleted by Steve Keim. It's been depleted to some degree by Monti Ossenfort, cutting DeAndre Hopkins. So I wanted to have a discussion with you about training camp surprises and the surprises that aren't a good kind, the cut variety for Arizona.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to be short on surprises with the new regime. And I think that that's going to probably be a theme as far as who moves forward with the organization and maybe who gets left behind and is searching for work. I want to give a shout out to everybody in the chat. What's up, Chase? Han shot first. Michael, Gary, already killing it. Gary already given a couple easy, simple cuts, it would seem, for the Redbirds, saying David Blau and Jeff Driscoll, a couple backup quarterbacks. Yeah, we'll see about that. We will definitely see about that. I think maybe one of them has a good chance of making this roster with the new quarterback rule that the NFL instilled as far as having a third quarterback on game days. But yeah, we'll certainly get into that on our thumbnail. We've got Dennis Gardeck. Could he be a cut candidate? And also who could make their way onto this roster. We did a show a couple weeks ago about maybe some moves that the Cardinals as an organization have to make. It's not just in the form of like free agents, but like getting B.J. Ojulari to sign to his rookie deal, bringing in a running back, potentially bringing in a veteran center. We had that conversation. I think we're going to continue that until the Arizona Cardinals, use these open roster spots.
Yeah, and you mentioned Dennis Gardeck. He's in the thumbnail for a reason, and that's not to say they don't want Dennis Gardeck on the team, but he was a Keim time signing once upon a time after, proving himself, and was extended in the spring, I think of maybe 2 years ago. He's been on the team for a little bit now, and he's paid like a starter. And he's not going to be a starter. I mean, his cap hit this year is over $5 million. And I get it, the Cardinals aren't strapped for cash, but Bo, you mentioned it like on a prior show, is they want to be able to go in the next spring with as much disposable income as they can. Mm-hmm. And can you really constitute paying somebody who's not an every down player and who may see really limited, I'm not at practice, Bo, like you are, but who may see really limited snaps defensively. And it's like, okay, then, if you're getting paid $5 million for this season, you need to be one of the best special teamers in the NFL. You need to be the consummate pro, which Gardeck is, the glue guy in the locker room. Mm-hmm. And I don't, you can't put a tangible number on that. I think that's invaluable for this regime. And Dennis does and says all the right things. So I don't want to start like clickbaity headline that they're going to cut Dennis Gardeck. But if you look at overthecap.com, who does a great job breaking down, projected salaries for this team, he's the outlier. It's like everybody else, at least you can see a path. Starter, all pro, starter. And it's like, well, Dennis Gardeck make him how much money? And then in turn, you cut him and you're almost getting the entirety of that contract back. I mean, you're getting about 3.5, 3.7 of that $5 million back. Mm-hmm. He needs to show, in my opinion, when the pads come on, that he is the same impact player on special teams, a little plus defender that Steve Keim thought he was getting 36 months ago.
Yeah. I mean, look, in order to make this roster, I don't think it's necessary for a guy like Gardeck to shine on special teams. I don't think his number is going to clear the way for that much cap, like an exorbitant amount of cap space. But you have to be realistic. Like, are you going to carry guys like Josh Woods, Chris Boyd, and Dennis Gardeck have all made their names in this league on special teams. And those guys are going to have to prove. You can't, like, are you going to carry all three just to play specifically on special teams? I'm sure Jeff Rogers would love that. I see that from Jalen Blair in the chat saying Gardeck has a major support from coordinator Jeff Rogers. That's Rogers' guy. And, if they've got the salary wherewithal, cap wherewithal to do so, they might choose to keep him. But, is he going to find his way into some defensive snaps? I hear you. I mean, I think the path to that is going to solely rely on Gardeck shining in training camp in the preseason. And it's not a matter of like effort and time spent at the facility and getting ready for it, because he does all that, right? And he endears himself like he's one of the most likable guys. He's buddies with the training staff. He's buddies with the the guys that get the gear ready. He got matching SpongeBob doodle tattoos with one of the
equipment people. Yeah.
One of the equipment guys. Like people love him around there. I don't think he's going to lack an ability to get work either. But the Arizona Cardinals need to figure out, like, is it worth to pay out the remainder of a 3-year, $12 million deal in year 2 of that going forward for Gardeck, who's going to primarily play special teams? Like, he's going to get a chance to show maybe if he could rush the passer, but is he going to be able? Does he have the size, athleticism that is necessary to play in Gannon's defense and Nick Rollis's defense? I'd really be surprised if he cracked the role in this one.
Yeah, you got to be long and athletic, and if not, you got to be Kazir White, who's the leader of the defense in the back seven, and his baseline defensive position under Vance Joseph was edge rusher. To be an edge rusher in this defense, you got to look like Zayvon Collins. You got to look like BJ Ojulari. He's a spark plug. And to Jalen Blair's point in the chat, it's a good one. He's close with Jeff Rogers, who the best thing that happens to Dennis Gardeck is Jeff Rogers was retained from the second consecutive regime. And so he's been, hand in hand with him, and they're going to need to see it though. I mean, Ossenfort and Gannon are going to need to see it come training camp when the pads come on, that he hasn't lacked that explosiveness, because you've mentioned it on prior shows, Bo. Like, he has not been that same guy when he had 7 or 8 sacks in that kind of 30% defensive starter season, where it was like, man, what's the untapped potential with this guy? And then he blows out, I think, his knee in the process. And it's just like, okay, is he just is he a jag right now? Is he just a guy in terms of his on the field ability? Again, I don't want to discredit all the intangibles he brings off the field. Han shot first. Wolfley would have a nervous breakdown if the Cardinals cut Gardeck.
Johnny,
can't believe you did that. To me, it's just, it's a business. And if you have big bloated salaries, and right now, if you're making $5 million, that's a bloated salary for the Cardinals, whether you like it or not, you're not safe from anything. And your name better be Budda Baker, who also wants a pay raise. Your name better be Kyler Murray to feel good and comfortable about your roster spot. If you're a time signing, you need to be productive. And it's been a couple of years since Dennis has been productive. Again, I don't think he's going to be cut before training camp to start training camp. But like, listen, if we go through 2 or 3 preseason games and he's a cut like toward the end of training camp, like, that would not surprise me at all. Especially the Cardinals are going to have, and a lot of people don't remember this because this regime has been so inactive, they're going to have the number 3 waiver claim through the preseason. And that means that players that are cut from Ossenfort's, prior regime in Tennessee, and Gannon's guys in Philadelphia, and Petzing's guys in Cleveland, there might be a version of Dennis Gardeck on another roster that they may prefer. So it's like, okay, you can be a placeholder here for now, but we've got 3 to 5 organizations we're keeping an eye on, and we're right there behind Chicago and Houston. We're going to be able to claim some people. Well, what happens when you claim people, Bo Brock? You have to take on the entirety of their salary. And the Cardinals, they don't want to get in a courting match with teams going out in the free agent pool. It's like, no, we're just going to claim you. And so I think we're going to see a lot of that to reshaping maybe the bottom third of this roster over the course of the next 6 to 8 weeks.
Yeah. I mean, the size doesn't blow you away. 6 feet, 230. You say, oh, well, you kind of had an undersized player in Hassan Reddick, but he's an absolute freak. Hassan Reddick is a physical, athletic freak. 6'1", 235.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And he was able to weather the storm for the ineptitude of the organization for 3.5 seasons before they found out his right place on the defense. Where you look at Dennis Gardeck, where he was a guy that had everything had to go right. He had this, claw and scratch his way onto an NFL roster out of, South Dakota State, working at McDonald's, undrafted free agent to kind of get everything and then shining on teams, right? But is he going to be able to cover? Is he going to be able to do all the things that Gannon and Rollis want him to do in order to get pass rush snaps? I just don't know if he's going to, even though it's wide open, competition for who's going to, and we've got some ideas of who's going to get the chances there. And Zayvon Collins, Cameron Thomas, Myjai Sanders, BJ Ojulari, like, is he going to be able to stand out even to crack the rotation? And that, and I'm skeptical of that, but I still do feel like if they really want to emphasize and have their special teams as a strength, because you're not like just reality facts about this roster is like, where could you say their true strength is? If they can shine on teams, they could at least have that fast of the game locked in and not have to worry about it, set it and forget it, then that might be something to take off Monty and JG's plate. But, there's certainly a lot of other candidates. Like when I started to kind of put together my list, I mean, obviously Gardeck stands out because of the money he's making and what his role is going to be. Do they match up? And then you start to look at other guys, like we saw Gary said David Blau. David Blau obviously in the conversation is going to be a battle probably between the rookie Clayton Tune, Jeff Driscoll, and David Blau for potentially 2 backup roles to Colt McCoy, and then maybe one beyond that after Kyler Murray comes back. And then you look at like the defensive line, right? Defensive line, which was named by NFL.com one of the biggest roster holes in the league, actually the biggest roster hole. And you see Leki Fotu, where is he a guy that can carve out a spot for himself in training camp? It's really going to be interesting to see. And I think guys who have ties to the previous front office are going to have a tough time to prove themselves in training camp and preseason.
Yeah, and we already talked about Leki Fotu ad nauseum with the prior regime. He did not play well. He was a starter, and I think a lot of people correlate, well, he was a starter on last year's team. How could he not make this roster? But to your point, Bo, like he makes about $1 million this year. But if you cut him now, post June 1st, you save almost the entirety of his salary.
Yeah.
And if they go out and they say, well, this guy had better tape, he's a defensive lineman, I do think it's tricky because he at least is a body that can play snaps. Where like Rashad Lawrence, I think we'd all agree, has a higher ceiling, but he hasn't been able to stay healthy, right? What are you going to get from certain veterans like Carlos Watkins, right? Can they come in and play 70% of the snaps? Like I think that's the area. As much as I don't love Leki Fotu, the player, again, we're not trying to speak ill will of anybody personally, but I just think you have to hang on to him until a better option comes along. Whereas like Dennis Gardeck, there are better options right now already on the team.
Yeah.
And so it just, and he makes so much more money. I misspoke earlier. I said $5 million. It's 4 and some change, but you can save over $3 million now as a post June 1st release. I'm going to tell you another name that I think we need to watch out for. And a lot of people might.
One last thought on Fotu real quick.
Yeah.
Is he somebody that was a victim of malpractice by the previous coaching staff?
Maybe, maybe.
I mean, there was the end around by Cooper Kupp where they had him basically outside, right? And it's like he's supposed to match the speed of even a running back and sealing the edge there. And it's just like, what are we doing here, VJ? I mean, and that's just one example, but he's obviously had opportunities. They had him slim down last offseason. So going into last year, he was a guy that was coming in, down some weight, and they want him to limber up and be more flexible and fast. And it's like, what are we doing here? So maybe with a better plan, they can kind of harness the big time defensive end or defensive lineman that came out of Utah that everybody was excited about in the 4th round in the same draft that produced Rashard Lawrence.
Yeah, and I 100% agree with you. I want to see them get their hands on Leki Fotu for a couple preseason games and then make a decision. And I think he's got some talent, but man, he looks so overwhelmed. And I think unfairly they put too much on his plate. Like as a 4th round pick, like you can't be expected to be an all pro or a pro bowler, just if he ever became a starter, I think that would be a positive. And he immediately came into, I think, a very weak position group, especially when J.J. Watt was injured. So it's like, hey, can you play a bunch? Hey, can we thrust you in here? We have nobody else. And it was malpractice with that position group by Steve Keim for a number of different reasons, but mostly just like their inactivity. So I think it would be great to see him with low expectations come in and surprise some people.
Wasn't his highlight, and this is Hans kind of jogging my memory on, wasn't his highlight last year making waffles in the position room on Hard Knocks?
Does that not say everything about this team, by the way? Just from last year,
he was mixing it one waffle at a time. That might be a cuttable offense right there. Like, what are we doing?
I blocked that out. No, that was enabled by Cliff. Cliff saw him take the Bisquick into practice and was like, "That's fine. That's normal things."
Let me just measure out one waffle. One waffle.
We've lost
You
7
wait your
straight games.
turn. I can't make 2 waffles here.
Well, here's the thing. Maybe Lecky was like, well, shit, guys, we can't afford to buy food here. I'll just make everybody breakfast. Maybe that was his
They're
mindset.
charging for eggs in the cafeteria.
Right.
I
Lecky,
can't.
you got some food you can bring in to make us breakfast since we don't have to pay? Heck yeah. That was probably pretty enticing. Lecky's like, oh, this will help my roster stability standpoint. All right. So those are the 2 off the top, Gardeck and Lecky Fotu. Let me give you a surprise one. And we've touched on this before, but I'm anxious to see how training camp plays out. What's going to happen if Kelvin Beachum isn't a starter? Like,
I was feeling like you're going to go there.
Is Kelvin Beachum going to ask for his release? He could. He just announced that he and his wife had a really awesome video, got picked up by NFL Instagram, the birth announcement for their I think they're having a son. And then Kelvin Beachum, when the confetti goes off and it's blue or whatever, he starts backpedaling. It's fantastic. And he's a consummate pro. He's fantastic, but he's also a backup right now because it looks like, thank the football gods, Paris Johnson Jr. is going to start at right tackle, and DJ Humphries, who's been injured, is going to play left tackle. And then you've got Josh Jones, who's played both positions. Like, if Kelvin Beachum, who, by the way, he signed a 2-year contract. It wasn't a 1-year, it was a 2-year deal. Minimal money both years. And this isn't a move that I think would be money related. But I think what if they're just like, we don't have a starting job for you. You've never played guard before. Do you would he go to the team and be like, yeah, guys, let me go play somewhere else where I think I can start, because I see where you guys are going. And when you signed me, Kelvin Beachum, you didn't know you were going to get Paris Johnson Jr. I think those are real conversations that teams have. And you might say, well, Kelvin, we need you as a contingency plan insurance. We want you to be able to rub off on Paris Johnson Jr. And if he's making good money as a backup, so be it. And the Cardinals finally have depth at tackle. But that's one where it's just like he signed here, and now they don't have a job for him. It's the signing to me was strange at the time anyway, because you had Josh Jones.
Well, I mean, it was a given as far as, I mean, we saw all the wheeling and dealing that Monty had to pull off in order to draft Paris Johnson and also accumulate assets. So it was never a given that they were going to end up with him. And you saw the elation from the war room when they did land Paris Johnson Jr., probably to the dismay of a guy like Kelvin Beachum, who thought he might have a couple, because I think it was smart and Monti Ossenfort, like, this is at the end of the day, like, I'm going to lock in a tackle because as of right now, we don't have anybody. And like, they didn't have anybody once they signed Dennis Daly, who was a 4-letter word coming out of Tennessee for the Titans. Like, he wasn't a reliable tackle there. So it's like he was flooding the position and he was getting guys who had reps as starters in this league just for the time as placeholders potentially, just because, I mean, the future of this team is going to be draft and develop. Like Paris Johnson, BJ Ujulari, Michael Wilson, Gary Williams, they're just the beginning of this thing. Like, they're going to draft and develop every premium position and beyond going forward, and then hopefully extending those guys. So Kelvin Beachum, as far as like what his future is, it's a great question, because if you're looking at like just the overall depth chart, like it feels like it's DJ Humphries at left tackle on the blind side, and then you've got Paris Johnson Jr. on the right side at right tackle, and then you've got Josh Jones as your swing with guys who have tackle experience on the roster. I think Kelvin Beachum would be your 4th best tackle. You know, they have to make the decision how many we're going to take. I mean, it's like pitching in baseball. You can never have enough, but like, there's also like the respect factor of this guy. Like, if somebody views him as a potential starter somewhere at this stage in his career, if he wants to go elsewhere, would they do him that kind of solid? You know, like, hey, do you want to go play, or do you want to not uproot your family and stick around in the desert and just make the money?
Yeah, and this is an interesting point too from Han Shot First. I was texting with Jess Root, who does a nice job for Cards Wire, good follow on Twitter, about Josh Jones and the potential. Like, could Josh Jones, who is not starting right now, again, there's that depth piece, and somebody who I'm very high on and would love to see him play snaps this year, Bo Brock, is he a trade candidate? Because look around the NFL, a bunch of teams need tackles, need guys who have played before. You've got the Jets who are losing linemen and safeties left and right. I mean, he is somebody you could dangle out there depending on what the price would be. Now, again, I would much rather not have Kelvin Beachum and have Josh Jones. That's just me naively thinking, give me the younger player. But like, what if a team called you for Josh Jones and said, we'll give you a 4th round pick for the expiring free agent? Like that, would that be something that would interest the Cardinals, or would they rather say, no, if this guy can play and be the heir apparent maybe to DJ Humphries, we need to see that this year, and it's not worth, diving into our tackle depth.
I mean, I think it depends on like what they view Beachum as, like how much he has left in the tank, because you need depth, right? You don't just get, especially when you need your number one priority, or at least it should be, is protecting your top asset in Kyler Murray. You need to keep depth, because we've seen, especially across that offensive line last season, whereas Kelvin Beachum was the only guy to make every single start, where everybody else faced injuries. And that's just that's kind of the, not as bad as the Cardinals faced last year, but every NFL deals with injuries, especially across the offensive line. And it's just, that's the reality of the game. So you don't give up just because you feel like you have a surplus. And if you want me to break that down to you like you're 5, I can do that. But if you have a surplus, I think you kind of hold on to it, right? You hold on to it, and you make sure that you're squared away to where by week 11 or 12, if you're staring down some injuries and Kyler Murray is back in the lineup, and Josh Jones goes down or Beachum goes down, and you're already down a starter or two, that you're not having to slide Dennis Daly over, or whoever you've decided to keep, or who you had to sign off the street. It's not. I think that if you have the depth, you hold on to it at least at that position.
Yeah, I agree with you. They have enough draft picks, in my opinion. And if they're going to trade players, I would rather trade older players. I would rather trade, and we've talked about this, like, could you get a pick for Zach Ertz at the deadline? Could you get a pick for James Conner late in the year? I'm not interested in moving Josh Jones. I think he's got too high of an upside. Let's look at a couple more examples here, Bo Brock. If you had to give me one like out of left field cut that no one saw coming and it would be a shock, there's always one of those like around the NFL, like, and it would have to be like a starter or a high draft pick once upon a time. I've got one in mind, but I want to pose it to you first. Do you have somebody that people will like put their head around and be like, what's happening?
I think I know who you're gonna pick, just based off the criteria that you put out there.
Yeah.
Oh man, I wish mine could be as sexy as yours, because are you gonna let me guess yours before you do it?
No, you have to tell me yours first.
Yeah, I'll tell you mine first, but
then you can guess mine.
Okay. I'm looking down the roster, like crazy cut that would shock everybody.
That's realistic.
This is great podcasting, by the way.
You got to make a case for it. You got to. You want me to do mine first?
Oh, well, tell everybody Rondale Moore, would you?
It is Rondale Moore. Because here's why. Here's why. The team has, I think, numbers at receiver now where they feel comfortable. We have not identified Rondale Moore's role, and I know it's early, and he was getting a lot of targets during OTAs. What if Rondale Moore is just not healthy and he gets hurt? And I'm not going to project him getting hurt, but he's been hurt every training camp since they've had him thus far. He's been hurt every year. He's played football since 2018. I do think you could get a draft pick for Rondale Moore. So I don't think that the likelihood of them like outright releasing him is very slim. But like, can you have a roster spot if he goes down again? I'm going to say wasted on a guy that you just can't count on. Or would you rather say, well, Zach Pascal has missed one NFL game in 5 years, and he's somebody that the coaching staff has a familiarity with and has had 600-yard receiving seasons. We know what Michael Wilson can do. He's a darling of the new era. And then you've got guys like Hollywood Brown and Greg Dortch, who they tendered. This regime tendered Greg Dortch. They said, Greg Dortch, we want you back. They brought him back. And then you've got some younger players, and I think they're gonna claim a receiver. I think they're gonna look at the receiver wire and try to get some additional size. They've got tight ends they like. He is the opposite of what I think they want to do as an offense. He is injury prone and he is undersized. And again, I'm not taking shots at the human being. We had him on during Radio Row. He's a great guy, great guest. But like, you got to be big and physical to play in this offense. And that's not what he does. So, but I projected Andy Isabella to be a training camp cut every year, or to be traded or whatever. And he stuck around like the Lazarus man and just literally forced his way, onto the roster up until last fall. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see. I'm rooting for Rondale Moore. I want to be proven wrong, but there's no more thing that's frustrating for a fan is when a player is constantly injured.
Yeah, Lance.
I can't imagine what it's going to be for a coaching staff.
Lance in the comments saying Andy Isabella over Rondale Moore. He'd take Andy.
Lance, what does Andy Isabella have over Rondale? At least he's a healthy player.
But when he's on the field, his impact is nothing. He doesn't impact the game whatsoever.
Rondale Moore, his biggest knock is that, and again, this is
can't stay healthy.
Fool me, right? You can't count on him to practice.
So it's like, would you rather have the player that, when healthy, is makes an impact, or the guy who's healthy and available, but he doesn't know how to get open and make plays?
Neither. They're not.
The tale of 2 second-round picks from Steve Keim right there.
No,
it's like,
I don't want to hear that. Don't do that to me. But
I saw one. I thought of one, and I looked up and I saw that Jordan in the chat. He said either he said Hamilton. He'd guess Hamilton or Fenton. 2 corners, and it's like Antonio Hamilton plays like, and he practices like he's gonna get cut, and like he's the last guy on the depth chart. And if it was the old front office, it was the old coaching staff, I think it'd be a damn near lock that Antonio Hamilton was going to make this team. But, I think that they might go with a bit of a youth infusion. He's the oldest corner in that room.
They use so many corners, though. It just, for me, it's just, that's interchangeable.
You asked me for a name, and that's what I got. You want it?
I don't like that answer. I was hoping you'd be like Colt McCoy or somebody like that. I wanted something.
I thought Colt McCoy too, but like Colt McCoy would have to be later. I think later in the season, or if something happens in training camp where he just can't, get it going enough to even see the playing field once real games start. He'd just have to say, I'm done. My body, though, I can't take the wear and tear. It's too brutal, but I don't know. I don't think it's not going to be country club training camp anymore, but I also don't think they're going to put their only real starting caliber quarterback in harm's way between now and the start of the season with Kyler Murray on the mend.
And not that everything is dead money, cap savings, end all be all, but they have $37 million in dead cap right now. Most of that came from DeAndre Hopkins. They'd have an additional $3.5 million if they cut Colt McCoy. And they would have been able to save most of that money had he been a pre-June 1st cut. So it's like, if they were going to cut him, they would have done it already, right? And so I think it speaks to the fact, like, he's going to be their starter until Kyler Murray's out. The only one that you can look at this entire scenario, and that's why we started with him, is, well, who makes a good amount of money, starter money, who's not a starter, that they can save a bunch of money? If they cut him, it's Dennis Gardeck. And so that's the one I'm going to keep my eye on. Again, if none of these happened, it wouldn't surprise me. But if 2 or 3 of these happened, this is a new regime, and they're going to have an opportunity to add some players. I know a lot of people think they're not going to add. They're going to add. What is that going to look like? We're going to talk about some players that they could add in the backfield here in a second. But first, I want to tell everybody, have you checked out the BetMGM Sportsbook app yet? If not, what are you waiting for? Because starting Friday, June 23rd, last Friday, you've got some time now. BetMGM players will receive a bonus bet upon logging into the BetMGM Sportsbook every Friday for the next 3 weeks. Claim period extends through Saturday and Sunday. You've got 72 hours, so make sure take advantage of that window and 72 hours to use your bet after the fact. So if you haven't signed up yet, use that bonus code PHNX. Now, there's a few different offers depending on where you live, but for our friends in Arizona, place your first bet offer and receive $1,000 back in bonus bets if the bet loses with BetMGM. So again, you get a little bit of insurance there. Make sure you use that bonus code PHNX. Check out the show notes for full details. Now listen to our guy Shane Diefenbach talk about it in the disclaimer.
Disclaimer, 21 plus to wager. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. U.S. promotional offers not available in Washington, D.C., Mississippi, Nevada, New York, and Ontario. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Colorado, D.C., Illinois, Indiana, Louisiana, Maryland, Mississippi, New Jersey, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Tennessee, Virginia, West Virginia, Wyoming. Call 877-8-HOPE-NY or text HOPE-NY 467-369, New York. Call 1-800-NEXT-STEP, Arizona. 1-800-522-4700, Kansas, Nevada. 1-800-327-5050, Massachusetts. 1-800-BETS-OFF, Iowa. 1-800-270-7117 for confidential help, Michigan.
The sweet pipes of Shane Diefenbach. Dropped him off at the airport today. He's going to go be a part of the Nashville coverage for the NHL draft from our friends over at PHNX Coyotes. He looked at me when he got out of the car and he said, "You're everything Johnny wanted to be become my best friend. You are my best friend." Wow. I said, "You know what? I'm all filled up over here. I got a built-in best friend in my young son and my wife. I'm good. We can be acquaintances. We can be pals."
That sounds like that's only something a loser would say, I feel like.
But even, I was available. I was not Rondale Moore. I was able to jump in there, get in the game, and get him to the airport on time.
Yeah.
And then he's going to go to the airport, Four Peaks, and he was going to have a beer before his flight. It's one of the top rated beers, obviously, the airport beer, especially when it's at Four Peaks, it rises the ranks. And you got to find out for yourself. If you haven't had Four Peaks yet, go check out, of course, their OG location, 25 years young here in the Valley of the Sun, Four Peaks. They've been doing it for a quarter of a century. Unbelievable work that they've been doing over at the brewery. I see that they're hosting yoga. They're doing all sorts of things. They're doing a cool, just a beer pairing dinner where they're going to pair all their beers with different entrees. It's over at the Biltmore. They're big time. They're at the Biltmore. They're swanky, but also they're just like you and I, and you can go over there and have a pint or a couple of them of their delicious beer that they brew on location. Make sure you're following along at Four Peaks Brew on Instagram. That's at Four Peaks Brew on Instagram, at Four Peaks Pub on Twitter. All sorts of giveaways, contests, and also whenever they drop new beer, you can find out about it first by following them on all of their socials. You got to be 21 years or older, of course, to drink their beer, and you got to do it responsibly.
Smart. What else would be smart other than dabbling on Four Peaks and BetMGM? Adding to this running back group, which we've talked about, Bo Brock, only right now contains 2 proven veterans. And what is it? James Conner. And then you've got Corey Clement is on the team. And then you've got a little bit of a wild card in Keontae Ingram, who was back with the prior regime. And so, a lot of people are wondering, like, this free agent market, when is it going to pick up? I think it's going to pick up right at the start of training camp. And I think this is a position you mentioned a couple weeks ago. Thought you saw running back Josh Jackson, the ex-LA Charger, visit with the team. So I do believe, Bo, the Cardinals are going to add a back, and they're going to dabble with a back. But the question is, which back is best, right? Mm-hmm. Which beat is best? Which back is best for the Arizona Cardinals? Let's check out some of the notable names at the position ahead of training camp.
Yeah, look at this list. I'm whelmed by this list. I just don't think, they're not going to be in the Dalvin Cook running, right? He's probably going to go chase more money. He's probably going to go chase a team that's maybe got contention expectations. Kareem Hunt, I hope Cardinals stay in the hunt. I hate myself for
nice.
that. But Zeke Elliott, no thanks. Leonard Fournette, no thanks. Kenyon Drake, been there, done that. Jerick McKinnon, I could probably see that. Melvin Gordon, no thanks. And then Justin Jackson makes some sense as far as, he was, Dave Sears is familiar with him in his times in Detroit, and he would just be, a decent compliment to James Conner. He's got some experience there, doing as a do-it-all running back, a guy that I think it just would be a good fit for the Cardinals. I just don't think that they're going to be really in the conversation for the bulk of this list here.
You don't think so? You like what? Why wouldn't a guy like Leonard Fournette make sense for this team that wants to run the ball north and south? I know that a lot of these guys have baggage, a lot of these guys have egos, but to me, Bo, I think, what are their options right now? Their options are, we gotta get a paycheck this year.
Yeah.
Maybe I get to go play in an offense that features me. Maybe I get to go play in sunny Arizona, and I don't have to go to Cleveland, or I don't have to go to Chicago. I can play in Arizona for a year. I don't think these running backs, the large majority of them outside of Dalvin Cook, are completely out of the realm of possibility. I think one more time with that list.
Why would no Zeke and Fournette, like playoff Lenny ain't there's no way that they're going to spend an off season ridding their roster, their organization of egos, and then bring in guys that have, infamously big egos.
I don't know. These guys are going to play in the NFL this year.
You know something that I don't.
I don't. But here's 8 backs that are going to be on rosters this year, and 6 of them are noticeable names. I think for Fournette and Zeke, it would not surprise me if the team at least looked at working them out, because we're past the point where people can have egos in the offseason, unless your name is DeAndre Hopkins. We're about to hit July and you don't have a job. I think this bodes well for the Cardinals, because you can say, well, Zeke, we could go out, we could sign Justin Jackson, we could go with internal people. The Cardinals have almost $30 million in cap space. Yes, they get to roll some cap over. Like, what do you think it would cost to sign Zeke or Fournette? You think it would cost more than like $2 or $3 million?
Probably not.
It would be, and those guys, you have to have somebody, whether or not you think this team is tanking or not. James Conner is going to miss games. He's always missed games. And it's not fair to ask him to play, 80% of the snaps. And he's making $10 million and good for him. But I can't go into this season with backups Clement and Keontae Ingram and street free agents and practice squad guys to be able to say, okay, our receiving core is a little uneven. Our offensive line's beat up. We need to run the football. This is what the offense is going to be. You gotta add another veteran.
If I would rather them start training camp, start to the majority of preseason before they make that determination. Like I think they really need to find out about Keontae Ingram. Was he a product of poor offensive scheme? We know what we're going to get out of these guys. It just doesn't strike me as something that the Arizona Cardinals need to be in the business of, kicking the tires on Ezekiel Elliott. Like that does nothing for me. If they are an upstart team, right? If they shock the world and they beat the Commanders and they beat the Giants, and they're like 2-1, and then James Conner goes down and they came out of the gates a little bit better than anybody anticipated, then go get somebody that's a proven back. But between now and then, just see what Keontae Ingram's all about.
Yeah, that's fine. I'm okay with that, but I'm also not okay with starting the year with a backfield that's largely unproven, especially when you didn't add a back in the draft. Like we thought they'd put an imprint on this running back group with a homegrown guy, and they haven't done that. And so a lot of people are asking in the chat, like James Robinson off the table. I don't think so. There was only so many. I think that echoes my point I'm trying to make is there are like 10 to 12 capable guys that fantasy enthusiasts know who have started games in this league. You got to go get one of them. And again, what if James Conner gets beat up in the first month of the season without Kyler Murray?
Mm-hmm.
And he's doing like 20 to 25 carries or touches per game. And it's like, oh, he's gone now. He has a separated shoulder. You got to have bodies to finish the season. You can't just trot anybody out there. The running back position has been devalued, but you also can't find yourself left, out in the wind with nothing to show for it. You got to be able to.
You think Zeke and you think Fournette are going to say, "Oh yeah, I want to go to the Arizona Cardinals. I hear they got a new offensive scheme."
Everybody's
hold out.
It
only benefits them to hold out. Like training camp injuries, preseason injuries only benefits those guys, and they don't have to go to camp early. They don't have to go. Live like it's football camp all over.
They've already missed most of the offseason. You got to be able to make sure these guys are in shape. These guys are already having to prove to teams during workouts that they got to be able to tote the rock this fall. I don't know. I
don't think there's any urgency from their representation to be like, oh yeah, let's go to a team with very low expectations.
None of it matters.
And then they're gonna, regardless of what the expectations are, they're not going to be the feature back, and they're probably not going to be the feature back anywhere. But why not go play, the RB2 for a team that is supposed to contend in their division?
I don't think any of these running backs, and I could be wrong, outside of Dalvin Cook, have an expectation that they're going to go anywhere and be RB1 and make good money. I think they're just literally trying to hang on and show I can still be a capable back. And you could even sell if you're Ossenfort. Hey, if you play well for us, we could extend you next offseason. We could flip you at the deadline, maybe Kansas City or somebody like that. Buffalo comes calling.
If Tony Pollard unfortunately gets injured in Dallas, the first call they're going to make is to bring Zeke back.
No,
and that would be immediately what's that?
Didn't they take it back in the draft?
Yeah, but he was like 6th or 7th round pick.
Oh, I don't know about that. To me, was
it Vaughn?
Yeah, Vaughn from USC maybe. I can't remember. For me though, with an offense the offense is gonna run the ball like 65% of the time, and James Conner, I really like.
I don't know
James
about
Conner.
that. They're gonna be
I really like
James.
James. Yeah. I really like James
mean,
Conner.
ideally, he's when they get started, when they finally get to really run this offense, when they can play complementary football, and I think there will be, signs of it throughout this season, no doubt about it. And especially when Kyler gets back and they can run this offense and they can maybe come out of the gates and play tight. Like if they play with a lead, sure, they'll lean on the run and they'll try to win that time in possession and take the air out of the football, no doubt about it. But I would anticipate the first half of the season, this is a team that's going to have to, unfortunately, play from behind. So, I think that's that takes away from your ability to run the football. But look, it's going to be even last season where they were throwing the ball over 60% of the time. It's gonna come back to a little bit closer to 50-50.
Yeah. There's just too much talent out there for the Cardinals not to pluck. And I feel like you're dismissing a lot of these guys just because they're older, and some of them, yes, they have baggage, legitimate baggage, but I mean, like Kareem Hunt was kind of an afterthought once upon a time,
I told you I hope that they were still in the hunt. It was horrible what I said, but it might have been a
terrible
pun, but it doesn't mean I didn't think that he should be. I mean, obviously he has knowledge of the offense. He played with Petzing in Cleveland, and he would be great. But if I'm a team that's needs a good complementary back, I think as far as this list goes, probably look at him first. Make a call to his representation first, right?
Yeah, 100%. James Robinson's another name. And there's just any of those guys.
Fournette's 28. What's Zeke? Zeke's got to be close to 30, right? He's got to be 28 or 29, right? I mean, that's unfortunately like that's if for running backs, like you're wheeling them out into the sun, like you're pureeing their food at that age for running backs. They're ancient.
Yeah, for me, Bo, I'm going to tell you right now, 27. I don't want to see this team hit late October, November, and have to start street free agents and running back especially when Kyler Murray comes back. Like I'm thinking about if James Conner's not available for Kyler Murray, but let's say everything else is humming along and they're on track. They're going to be wishing that they signed somebody that could help out and carry the workload, literally and figuratively. For the amount of money that's being asked. But then again, this is a coaching staff and a front office that didn't sign Joshua Dobbs for $1.2 million. So it's such a staple.
Well, let's talk about this because I don't get the sense that you have any confidence in Keontae Ingram to take the RB2 role.
Well, how many backs do you need? This team carried 5 backs to start last year. Even if I like Keontae Ingram, which I do, Corey Clement does nothing for me.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's just Keontae Ingram and James Conner, you still need another back. I think you need somebody who is unless you got a rookie in the first couple of rounds, right? And they could learn and be the heir apparent to James, and they had top talent. To me, it's foolish because somebody put in the chat, like a lot of these guys are plus pass protectors. And that's one of the biggest things I have concerns about is that you put Kyler Murray or Colt McCoy or whomever, Clayton Tune on an island on third down, and you're just like, go Keontae, get out there and pick up a blitzer. Like that's asking a lot, I think, even of a second year back in the NFL. Whereas a lot of these guys, even Kenyon Drake, some of these veterans, it's like, okay, we're not going to embarrass you on passing downs. You can function as an offense with us. We have shown that for other franchises. Again, they're going to be looking. If they don't look now, they're going to be looking in October. I promise.
Well, I'm almost guaranteed that this is going to be a team that's going to add a running back between now and training camp. I mean, going into camp with just 5
of
backs.
note, or just a guy.
I mean, I don't think it's going to be the top of this list. I mean, if it's going to be somebody that's going to fit the profile of Justin Jackson with the biggest name potentially could be, I would guess, Kareem Hunt. Don't you think?
Yeah.
I don't see them going around like a Leonard Fournette or Ezekiel Elliott. Those two guys have basically played themselves out of like Fournette, probably 2 organizations, and Zeke.
You think those guys' careers are in jeopardy? You think like they
no,
could be
I think that they'll land somewhere, and it'll be with a team that is going to try to make their way to the playoffs this year. But I just like when you hear Monti Ossenfort talk about what his vision is for this team, I just don't. It doesn't add up to like why if they sign him, like the production doesn't going to meet what potential distraction that they could be to take away from like this unified front, this egoless team and roster that they and just culture that they want to create. It doesn't seem like it's something that they feel would be worth to them. They're worth their while.
We talked about it earlier. The free agent or the waiver wire could be an opportunity to add a back as well. But it's a big omission. James Conner has been like the lone soldier from January until now, and if I would have put money on that, I would have lost a good amount with our friends at BetMGM hadn't that happened this long. Where I do prefer to invest my money is with our friends at Circle K. I found my new Circle K here in the East Valley. among others. And I'm excited because it's America's thirst stop. Stock up at Circle K. Super excited to partner with them. Check out your local Circle K. Best coffee, beer, snack selection. I got a gas card that helps me save every single time I stop off. I don't want to be stuck in rural Arizona. I love Arizona. Triple digits, though. You want to make sure you're filled up and premium gas at not a premium price with my friends at Circle K. They can be your friends too. They're going to help you out. So you can join the SMS subscriber club. Well, Johnny, what does that do? Well, take out your smartphone, your device, whatever you got right now. Excuse me. Text PHNX. I need a Polar Pop desperately. Text PHNX to 31310 to join the SMS subscriber club to get a buy one, get one free 32-ounce Polar Pop. If I had a Polar Pop right now, unsweetened iced tea, I'd be ready to rock and roll. I'm going to go do that after the show's over. Again, exclusive SMS subscriber club. Buy one, get one free 32-ounce, the biggest they got. Polar Pop, full free. Text PHNX 31310. Head to circlek.com/store-locator to find the Circle K's nearest to you.
Yeah, I located my new favorite Circle K. It's better than your Circle K. I mean, I think that goes without saying.
That's selfish.
It did freak me out, though. They had this new, cashierless checkout. And it's not like the ones they have in the store at, Fry's or Safeway or Bash's, wherever you do your shopping. Like, they didn't have, where you just run and scan your own items, right? You just put them in this box on this tray, and then it just realizes which items you have. You just put them down on the counter, and then it rings you up. It gives you a total, and then you scan your credit card. It was creepy. It was at some point, there's not going to be any people in the Circle K any longer. What's up?
I need somebody to. Everybody smiles at me when I go into Circle K.
I guess I'm late to the party. I guess is. Okay, so since 2023,
you're too busy being best friends with your wife and your son. You haven't joined the rest.
I haven't lived life. Well, yeah, that's true. That's true. You also haven't lived life unless you've celebrated Smooth Sack Summer. You didn't. I didn't stutter there. It is Smooth Sack Summer. It's and it's time to really get in on the party if you haven't done so already. Go to our friends over at manscaped.com. They have so many different deals going on. They got the Performance Package 4.0. They got the Perfect Package 4.0. How about the Beard Hedger Pro Quit? I kid. I could have used that today. I took the beard down way too low. And with all the gear from Manscaped, I can avoid any kind of incidents like that. Also, any more serious incidents, they're going to take care of your boys. You're not going to have any fear when you're getting yourself all groomed up there. The Platinum Package 4.0, the luxury full body grooming kit. Take advantage of all the great products that they have over at Manscaped and save some money while you're doing it as well. Use the code PHNX at manscaped.com. Get 20% off plus free shipping with the code PHNX at manscaped.com and get in on the Smooth Sack Summer. Don't miss out. Go find out what it's all about. Manscaped.com.
You love to see it. I don't know if you love to see this, though. So I mentioned Cardinals hopefully looking at some free agent running backs, but what about a free agent wide receiver? It looks like Kyrie Irving may want to take his talents to the NFL. You be the judge. This was on Twitter today. Kyrie Irving running routes. I think we've got some video here. This is Kyrie center rig. Look at the point guard there going deep, catching a ball, and a lot of people in the comments saying he could play in the NFL. But again, this is against no press coverage, and Kyrie working out. Okay, so now we've got a corner on him, and a nice slant inside. There's a little tutty right there. What do you think of the ex? I guess he's the ex everybody now. Current Dallas Mavericks point guard running routes. And why would you post this on social media? There's a one-handed grab in the back of the end zone. That's nice. If you're looking like Kyrie is right now, making all these big time plays at the wide receiver position, you wouldn't post this on your Instagram? Are these big time plays? To me, it's just, why is he? This is just strange. Is he trying to get a tryout? You're thrown off by something Kyrie Irving's doing? I guess. That's now pretty much double coverage. That's his thing, right? Oh, look at that one hand. He looked like Hollywood Brown with that. I think he's got me covered out there, though. Yeah. He wants to alienate himself from teammates and take down organizations in 2 leagues, not just one. Is that what he wants to do now? Not just the NBA. I want to go to the NFL. Well, he's got that guaranteed money I think coming from Dallas, regardless, right?
Yeah.
That's why he wants to stay there. So I think that's assured to him. So he's like, well, if I tear something, I can just
Right.
collect my checks. What's that, John Wall style in Washington? But yeah, I saw that today. I'm like, I want to talk about Kyrie Irving, but I don't really have much else to say other than that.
There isn't much to it.
He looks fine. Yeah, it just. Do you think there's an innate kind of ego to NBA players like LeBron and company who think they could play in the NFL? And like,
Yeah,
we've seen really athletic players come into the NFL and they're just not that great at football. Isaiah Simmons, and these guys are freaks off the field, but maybe it's just not in their wheelhouse that they could be great when the pads come on. Can they be unicorns in the best way? Can they be Randy Moss? Can they be?
I think a guy
really
like
good?
Antonio Gates gave these guys a false sense of hope. Like, hey, he played college hoops. He didn't really play college football. Jimmy Graham. It's like, oh, it's easy. You just have a basketball background. That should be enough, especially at the tight end position where blocking's involved. It's so tough. Like, I remember they announced the Hard Knocks team today. It's the Jets. And I remember when Miami was on it and they tried to switch some guy who played big time college basketball, and he just got dominated. Like he athletically, he had all the gifts that you would want, but like the things like as far as technique and really the physicality that's demanded from the NFL, it's just something I don't think anybody can really anticipate and really try to replicate without really getting on the practice field with these guys, because they are so physical. Like Kyrie couldn't get open against anybody on like the Cardinals lowest rated cornerback. There's no way he could get open against one of those guys. There's no chance. He just doesn't have it's not in his, I guess, his muscle memory to operate like that and run routes like that. Looks good against whoever his trainers are, guys who probably played JV.
Yeah, but there's a physicality that just doesn't exist. I mean, the physicality that existed in the NBA 20 years ago is not prevalent today, and that's why a lot of people, may have been turned off by today's game. I still love it, but it's not what it once was. And even with the NFL no longer allowing like big time hits, like you have to be able to be physical. And I think that's a problem with too many current Cardinal players is they're not physical or they're hurt too much. So yeah, Kyrie Irving, we wish him well. I don't know what the hell he's doing. But, I'm going to say it right now. I'm happy he's not a Phoenix Sun. I can tell you that. There was an opportunity here where I thought that was going to be their move this offseason. Instead, they got Bradley Beal, which I would much rather have, and Kyrie Irving can stick to these weird videos on Twitter. Yeah.
Yeah, there was other not great news about the Cardinals organization, or there was just from TMZ, wasn't that about Bill Bidwell Jr.? No, we don't have to.
We can.
An incident that went down in his Paradise Valley home involving him and his wife. I'll say this, like the way that they had the headline for the Cardinals was former Cardinals exec. I mean, he hasn't been around this organization for a long, long time. Obviously, still the older brother to Michael Bidwell, but it's another unfortunate headline. But this one, it really doesn't have anything to do with the organization.
Yeah, you can go find it. It's through TMZ Sports. I mean, the Cardinals, the Bidwells own this team. Michael Bidwell owns this team. Not a newsflash to anybody. We need to keep the Bidwells away from the football side of things, the football operations. And I hope that the new people they've instilled within like public affairs, human resources, are treating people well, because everything starts from the top. And I know Michael Bidwell has looked in the mirror. I hope so this offseason. And everything that we're hearing from this franchise emulating out of Tempe and Glendale is that they're trying to change their ways. But man, every once in a while, Bo, you can count on 4 to 6 weeks. It's like Groundhog Day in the spring. It's like something's going to come out about the team. And it's just, it makes you go, ugh, can we not do this, Bidwells? Can we not do this front office? Can people associate with this franchise indirectly or directly? Keep it together so we can put the attention on football and get excited about the players for once. I don't want to know any of the execs. I don't want to know about their personal life. I want to know about these players. I want to celebrate these players. That's the most unfortunate thing. Keep them out of the news.
You're not going to hear anything unless it's bad. And it's like, can you just, it's just another rough story surrounding the organization in some sort of way. And it's, can you have an incident board go, a couple 100 days without incident. And it doesn't feel like the team is even capable of that, even with, new leadership in the front office and the coaching staff. Victor saying Florio's licking his chops right now. We might have to potentially ask him about that when he joins the show tomorrow, Johnny.
Oh my God, you've broken the biggest news of the week. Pending a last-minute cancellation, which we do not feel like is imminent. Pro Football Talk, Mike Florio will be on with Bo and I tomorrow. We're going to ask him about everything from Jonathan Gannon, Kyler Murray, Caleb Williams holding out, not playing for the Cardinals. Mike Florio tomorrow joins PHNX Cardinals at 4 p.m. So if you want to get your fix in between then, check out gophnx.com. Make sure you subscribe. Check out the merchandise locker. This is one of my favorite tees. Nux, our guy, our mascot, become a diehard because you're going to get exclusive content like this throughout the course of the offseason. Tremendous articles, insights. PHNX Cardinals beat reporter Howard Balzer, HOWARD is the promo code. We got a lot going on.
Yeah, we do. You made the move, right? You're out of the Cope. You're searching morefurniture.com to get your new living room dialed in, your new office. You maybe get your. What are you doing? You're sitting on like a trash can turned upside down, right?
I am. So
I'm
still working on my setup. So don't judge me too harshly. My house isn't unpacked, but my office is coming along here in the East Valley. So yeah, More Furniture. I need to hear from them soon. They do a tremendous job. I need to reach out.
I need to hear from you. You need to hit the website,
right.
morefurniture.com, and I bet you wish they had some sort of white glove delivery moving service as well, so you didn't throw your back out like you did over the past week. More Furniture has that white glove delivery. It's well worth it. You get it. They're going to bring the furniture, the gear to your place, get rid of all the packaging, and they're going to set it up for you exactly where you want it. Take advantage of it right now. You watch any of our shows, you'll see the beautiful furniture that we're sitting on in the background. It's all from morefurniture.com. Save big on the best furniture in the valley when you head over to morefurniture.com. Let me ask the audience this. What do they want to hear from Mike Florio? What's their biggest question outside of why do
they want to hear from Mike Florio?
Arizona Cardinals?
So Jose or somebody I think Victor's saying y'all need to turn off the comments tomorrow. I think Mike will know what he's walking into, the lion's den, so to speak. You can't come after a franchise and a fan base over the course of 6 months and not expect things to get a little bit heated, right?
I think he knows exactly what he's getting into. He just, he obviously wants to come on and probably continue his battle against the Arizona Cardinals and the NFL, what he feels was like an underreported or he didn't get enough, I guess. What do you want? He wanted some closure on this Gannon tampering thing.
Yeah, it's not coming. It's over.
It's over. As soon as they agree, Philly agreed to it. Philly agreed to compensation on draft day, and they got it. And then even Howie Roseman was like, that's crazy. You're a conspiracy theorist. So we're going to talk to Mike and see why he continues this and more. Like we'll get into the conversation about, the Monti Ossenfort, Jonathan Gannon going to Norman, Oklahoma and supporting their quarterback and why he felt like that was going to take away from their draft prep.
It's going to be wild. We will listen, this show, who's had Patrick Peterson on this offseason that's Cardinal related, this program, this show, to ask him questions. What's your relationship like with the Cardinals? Do you want to be in the Ring of Honor? How do you feel about the Cardinals and Kyler Murray today? We'll do the same thing. You guys want guests. You want the answers. We will do our best to make it happen like tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be a banner day in this offseason when Mike Florio comes to town.
We want
hey, neighbor.
The truth. We want the motherfucking truth, Johnny. That's all we're asking for.
It's coming. It's
Can
coming.
Florio even give us the truth?
We
just want answers. What's going on, Florio?
Listen. It's going to be a banner day for PHNX Cardinals tomorrow. let's just call it like we see it. It's a banner. I'm surprised. Listen, I didn't know if we were gonna give the insight because we've had some cancellations on this show before.
Yeah,
but it feels like Mike's going to keep his word and he's going to jump on with us
for sure. Yeah, and look, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a spirited debate. Does that sound lame? I think it's gonna be the best podcast
right?
representing the Cardinals versus their number one hater, Mike Florio. It's gonna be fun. He's gonna see the end of this show and he's gonna say, "I'm out on it." But no, we feel like he'll be here tomorrow, and that's gonna be something to tune in tomorrow at 4 p.m. right here on PHNX Cardinals.
You love to see it. Like and subscribe. This is your premier Arizona Cardinal podcast. Somebody said at the top of the show, Mondays are better because of PHNX Cardinals. You're goddamn right about that. We love you all. Like this video, share it around the YouTube metaverse. Make sure to tell your family and friends. Mike Florio is coming to town tomorrow. In the meantime, he's Bo Brock. I'm Johnny Venerable. We'll see you on Tuesday.